Hello and welcome back to another flying adventure with your homeboy Christo in the house. We're jacking it in San Diego, California. Join me on a day trip to Catalina Island in the amazing Pilatus PC-12 from Carenado. This airplane flies like a bat out of hell. It can take off and land on a squirrel's nutsack. Catalina Island is this beautiful green rock out in the middle of the ocean just outside Los Angeles, and capital Avalon is pretty sweet. You get your put there and your booze and your coke and all that shit is pretty cool. I like it. So I'm gonna let my flight crew go ahead and do a proper outside inspection of the aircraft before we take off. It's important to make sure that everything is squared away. Okay, so the doors are closed. Now we're going to check that the parking brake is set. And the parking brake is set if you have to turn your head to read the text. The external power should be off for now, and batteries 1 and 2 should be off as well. Generators 1 and 2 should be off, and avionics 1 and 2 should be off. The non-essential bus set to auto. Standby bus should be on. I'm going to push the test lamp, just move the sunscreen out of the window. There we go. All the lights come on. And all the external lights are off. Fuel pumps, auto, no lights. And the ignition is auto, no lights. And everything over here on the de-icing panel is off. The inertial separator is off. The inertial separator is used for taking off and landing on surfaces that are uneven, like gravel and such. So that would be turned off if we're taking off from a pristine runway like here in San Diego. Cooling system, all that stuff is off right now, and as well as the heating, of course. The EFIS composite switch is set to normal, and the attitude and heading reference systems 1 and 2 are set to slave. The landing gear lever is down, and the environmental control system should be off at this stage. It's auto right now, so let's turn that off. And the cabin pressure switch is auto and guarded. And we should set the cabin pressure to our cruise altitude plus 500 feet. So actually it's already good there. We're going to be cruising at about 7,000 feet today. So 7,500 is good. The trim and the flap interrupt switches are both set to norm as seen here. And the power control lever is set to idle detent. And the condition lever should be cut off and feathered. And the flap lever should be 0 degrees, which it is. The instrument, cockpit, and cabin lighting is all off at this time. And that completes our pre-flight inspection. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to turn on batteries 1 and 2. And we're going to verify that we have 24 volts. And we're going to turn on external power. And now we should have 28 volts. The landing gear lever, 3 green, and the fuel quantity, we haven't actually set the fuel yet, so we're going to do that right now. According to SimBrief, we're going to take 811 pounds, and the payload weight is set for 5 cokehead lawyers and their various luggage, clocking in at 1,250 pounds. Let's load that and resume flight. Okay, so now we're going to go up and check out the fuel pumps. We're going to listen for an audible sound here. We have an audible sound. Put them back on auto. Now for the oxygen lever, that should be on, so get the bad boy up there. And we can turn on the beacon. And let's get the pesky armrests out of the way here. Co-pilot as well. Push the starter. Just a little nudge there. Should set this to ground idle, like that. Can turn on generators 1 and 2. And turn off external power. And the inverter should be set to generator. Can turn on avionics 1 and 2. And the standby bus, turn that off. And the strobe light will leave off because it's in the daytime. Can turn on the nav light. The instrument advisor you can set to dim. I'm going to set the altimeter 2985. We're taking off from runway 27, and that's 275 degrees. 250, 260, 270, about there. There we go. That's good. We'll set the transponder to standby. It's already on standby. Can set the environmental control system to auto. The temperature today in San Diego is 23 degrees, so I guess we can turn on the cooling system like that. Low is fine. We don't have any flags on any of the instruments here. Set the flap lever to 15 degrees. Test the autopilot. We can turn on the passenger signs as well as the taxi lights. We can see that the power control lever is in the ground operating range. Put my foot on the brake here. So we're just gonna hang a left here and proceed down to runway 27. Here we go. So the power lever is all the way at the bottom, it's fully retracted. So this is all the condition lever right now. I have it set so that I get enough momentum to move forward. I can actually ease back on that a little bit. Right, so let's just come to a stop here. So I'm just going to set the parking brake right quick. Come on, yes, fucking, there we go. And the flight instruments are checked. We have runway heading. And the trim is supposed to be set to green lines. And this is something that I've noticed with the Carenado. It's always good to go. It's everything's pointing at the green. And I'm not sure if I'm supposed to line up the green diamond on the rightmost part of the gauge there. But when I move the trim, the diamond doesn't move. So I'm not actually sure if it's even modeled correctly. I doubt it. This is more of a eye candy sort of version of the PC-12. Okay, so flight controls are free and correct. Looks good. And on the caution panel we have nothing, no lights, and the flight director is on, and we should turn our landing lights on, and the transponder should be set to on altitude. We're ready to go. Excuse me, I dropped my vape here. Just one puff here before we... I'm also going to go ahead and set my altitude, just to set it to 7,000. Oh man, I'm such a rookie. I didn't even program my flight computer. Let's just do this right quick. Okay, I'm gonna go to flight plan, and we're gonna load a procedure, departure, and then you go with the C word, LAX, load departure. Okay, and we can see now that if we go back to the map mode, I think what happens is that usually I do all this stuff before I even leave my parking spot, but in the PC-12 you don't turn on the avionics before you turn on the engines. When I have turned on the engines, I'm kind of ready to go. I just forget everything here. Okay, so we're obviously not going to LAX, so we're gonna go back into the flight plan, and we're gonna scroll down, and we're gonna obviously remove Los Angeles here. Remove. Yes. So if we look in our sim brief, we fly the C word, departure, but instead of using the transition LAX, I'm going to pick AVOLs. So add waypoint, AVOLs, enter, followed by SXC. Yep, Santa Catalina, and then CABX, which is the ICAO for Catalina Island. Enter, and back, map, we get to Seaward, and I'm gonna go ahead and move. I can graphically edit the flight plan, and I can simply move this one. I just need to get a ballpark sort of done. So we're good. Okay, off we go. I really hope I made the correct volume settings in my streaming software here, because this plane is so fucking loud. Okay, we can totally take off. Positive rate, gear up. We can already retract the flaps. To flight plan, wind field, activate, and now nav, and AP on and yaw damper on. Now we'll fly the flight plan. It's an insane ascent rate I have, but it'll be fine. We can handle it. So should be flying nav, and it is. You can see that it's on its way to wind field here, so that's good. And it's gonna take us up to Gwyn, seaward, which is the end of the SID for KSAM, and then after AWOLs, I will just disconnect the autopilot and we'll come in manually to CAVX. So anti-ice is not required today. I've set up the autopilot. The environmental control system is set to auto. The power control lever should be set so that the ITT is around 720. That's about right. That's good enough. Alright. Okay, so we can turn the landing lights off. I'm going to go ahead and set the altimeter for CAVX. 2989. Cabin pressure. Verified cabin pressure differential below 5.75 psi. And it is below 5.75 because that would be about here. So we're well below that. That means it's probably fine. And it's definitely within the green arc. Unless I do have a very much impaired color vision, so I hope it's not yellow. But it certainly looks green. I think it's green and then it gradually becomes yellow. Seriously, I can barely tell. It is a good thing for the public that I'm not actually a real pilot. So, because I can't see colors for shit. Okay, we can turn off the passenger signs now, so if the cokehead lawyers in the back want to move around, they can do so. And they can fire up their meth pipes also if that's what strikes their fancy at this time. Right, so let's just settle in for the cruise. There is Avalon. Here's the airport. Gear. Throttle. And we'll cut the autopilot. And the yaw down. Where are we with the flaps? That's good. Gear is down. Keep my hand on the throttle here and be ready with the reversers. You have to be careful with the front gear of this airplane because even if you score a butter landing, you can still fuck it up by slamming the front gear down. And the Carenado has a very specific sound for this. Oh, stalling. Not good. Come down, come down, come down. Oh, that was the worst landing ever. Oh, it's fucking awful, everything. But we didn't, at least it didn't say wasted. So that's good. Okay, ease off the road. Alright, let's just stop here for a moment. Let's stop here for a moment and set the parking brake. Thank you. Okay. So, I can set the power control lever to idle and ground. Yes, it's set to idle and ground operating range. And the condition lever we should set to ground idle. That's where it is. Good. And can go ahead and fully retract the flaps. And we can turn the taxi lights on. I never turned those off. I should revise my checking list. We can turn off the landing lights. The icing was never on, and we can set the transponder to standby. And now we can proceed to our parking space. Cancel these bad boys right here. And off we go. You know, usually when you make a video for YouTube, you want to show yourself at your best. Clearly, I didn't do that. It's a pretty clumsy flight in many respects, particularly with sure that the tower in San Diego weren't too pleased with me doing my flight planning on an active runway. And of course, that landing. I think I busted a tweeter in my speakers here. Oh, whatever. Okay, and we'll just turn in here. I have had the pleasure of visiting this airport in real life. I didn't fly in. I was visiting with my dad about 25 years ago, and the unofficial mayor, whatever, of the island actually took us out into the interior, which is what they call it. And we got a little tour of the island. It's pretty cool. Alright, so we'll stop here. Okie dokie. And set the parking brake. Ah, come on! Fiddly as fuck. But we didn't drive into the bushes, and we didn't collide with any other airplane, so that's good. Okay, so we've set the parking brake, and ideally you're supposed to let the ITT stabilize for 2 minutes here, but I think we're fine. Power control lever is idle. Can turn off the environmental control system, as well as the external lights, taxi, nav, beacon. Well, actually the beacon can wait until the engine is off. Probes were never on. Can turn off these signs, turn those off. The cooling and heating systems. I can turn the standby bus on. Avionics 1 and 2 off, and generators 1 and 2 off. And can set the condition lever to cut off feather. I did that off camera, sorry about that. I can turn off the oxygen lever here. We'll set the instrument lighting to norm or off, same thing really. And finally we turn the batteries off, like such. Here we are at Catalina Island. Enjoy!
I'm rocking the mic. I'm rocking the mic like a motherfucking champ. I don't know how else to fucking put it into words. I just wants to go home with a Michael Jackson, and I grab my big cup and I smoke a fat blunt.